Welcome to a little update guide for the changes implemented in patch 7.3 for the Reaper job. This is a follow-up video to the full guide I made for the job a few months ago. That guide covers all you need to know to play the job optimally, from the very basics of the job to advanced concepts and situations that you need to know if you are planning to go more in depth with the job or face harder content like Savage or Ultimates, and the complexities that come from those encounters, with plenty of examples to make it easy for you to understand. That video is still 100% functional in all aspects, but there is one small section, or better said, a part of that section that this video updates, the section that covers our 2-minute burst window. So my recommendation is to go watch that video, pick the section that you want, and once you get to the minute shown on screen right now, replace that section with this video instead. Then you can go back to check the remaining information because everything else is exactly the same. Now, with that said, you have been warned, and let's get right into it. So, among the usual potency changes that we get every patch, we also got a really important one that no one really saw coming. Our Enshroud cooldown has been reduced from 15 seconds to 5 seconds. This seems quite massive, and it kinda is, but at the same time, it doesn't really change that much, since our main constraint has always been our gauge and how messy that can end up being, and also the time required for Arcane Circle to charge up and give us plentiful harvest when we get into our 2-minute burst window. That said, thanks to this change, our lives are just a little bit simpler. All of those moments where our Enshroud usage was still on cooldown and we had to adjust to it due to downtime in harder fights or because we simply messed up our rotation are gone. Now we will always have our Enshroud back no matter what we do, making our lives easier and giving us one less thing to worry about in a job that can feel really messy inside those encounters. The big change though resides in our standard double Enshroud window, which is basically the reopener you will be using 99% of the time. That one used to look like this. We enter with 1 or 2 seconds remaining on our Death's Design debuff, and when Arcane Circle had 6 seconds left, we started doing the sequence on screen. Now, what is the change then? It's a pretty simple one really, but one that has some details you really need to understand. Basically, because of this Enshroud cooldown change, we can now completely remove one of the 2 Shadow of Death usages at the start of our sequence. One usage is enough for Arcane Circle to charge up Plentiful Harvest for our second Enshroud usage, leaving our rotation to look like this now. It looks pretty simple, right? But here's where we go a bit more in detail. To start, we now Enshroud when there are 5 seconds left instead of 6 on Arcane Circle. That's because of the one less GCD we press in our burst. And by 5 seconds, I mean at the end of those 5 seconds. So basically, to make it easier for you, press one more GCD when there are 7 to 6 seconds left, and then simply transform and continue with the rotation. Now, which Shadow of Death of the 2 you choose to remove doesn't really matter as long as you do. Simply pick the one that feels better for you and you're good to go. But because we're removing one usage in our reopener, that means we need to apply it somewhere else before we get into our burst window. Otherwise, our Death's Design debuff will drop in the middle of our rotation, and that's something we want to avoid. When to use that doesn't really matter that much, just make sure to use it. But my recommendation is to press the skill before Arcane Circle gets to less than 10 seconds. That's because the last button you want to press will always be your 1, 2, 3 slice combo, or at least that's how I call it. But there are also chances you will need to press important buttons like Soul Slice to not overcap its usages. And if we have forgotten to press Shadow of Death, that might lead to delaying our burst window start by a few seconds, and that is also something we don't want to do. Now, going back to our 1, 2, 3 basic combo and the reason why it's so important that those are the last buttons we press, well, that's because unless the last skill we use is Infernal Slice, both Slice and Waxing Slice will leave our combo open to continue, which we will do inside our burst window right after Perfect Show before the time window drops, and we break the combo and cause a damage loss that we also want to avoid, of course. Before, this was a very unnecessary and convoluted process where we had to delay Perfect Show to continue our combo, or maybe even drop the combo to use Perfect Show inside buffs, depending on the situation. But that doesn't really matter now, it's useless information because thanks to that one less GCD we're pressing, we will always be able to press both Perfect Show inside buffs and then continue our combo right afterwards. So don't worry, our rotation will always, no matter what, look like this if we need to continue our combo when getting into our burst. That is also why it's so important that the last button we press before enshrouding is one of the 1, 2, 3 combo skills. Otherwise, we're just going back to how it was, adding one extra necessary GCD because we maybe forgot to press Shadow of Death in time, and now we might lose our combo or delay skills that we shouldn't, making the process confusing for no reason when we could completely avoid it beforehand. So just stick to the sequence on screen and you're good to go. The one thing you have to remember though is that Perfectio is a ranged tool, meaning we can use it for downtime moments. So if you know that that situation is approaching, don't use Perfectio inside your burst window, save it for that moment instead, otherwise you will lose damage output. How and when to use Perfectio in combination with the rest of our range skills is something I explain in depth in the full guide, so again, make sure to check that out if you want to learn more advanced concepts. Other than that, there are no more changes to our rotation. You continue with Soul Slice into Gluttony, or instantly press Gluttony if you have enough gauge, and continue with Soul Slice and the rest of the rotation remaining, always paying attention that you don't overcap your gauge or your Soul Slice stacks. Everything else is exactly the same as it was, but now we have a few less annoyances to look out for, which honestly is a good thing because we had a bit too many of those. Now, for the people who came straight to this video and are just getting into the job, we put our Sacrificium as our second off GCD here, just in case people take a second or two longer to press their buffs, allowing us to put one of the heavy hitters inside them. If they still don't press them, well, that's not your problem, you tried your best. And Gluttony is delayed because otherwise it's a damage loss, making this the one and only time we do it. And this is the end of the video. I hope this update was helpful, and for any questions or missing information, make sure to drop them down below. I wish you good luck in your learning process, and I'll see you around!